Hello and welcome to another Pauper video. I'm kalikaiz and today I'm doing a deep dive on the Pauper metagame on Magic Online. These are taking into account all of the trophies from the Magic Online leagues from August 3rd to 10th, 4th to 10th. And if you want to get information on how the metagame plays out and see some really sick lists, definitely continue watching this sweet video. Before we get into it, make sure to check out cardmarket.com if you want to get cards from these decks. They're the largest seller of Magic the Gathering cards in Europe. You can like and subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about this video. Hit up the Patreon, patreon.com/kalikaiz for sideboard guides and stuff like that. And let's go ahead and check out the metagame on a whole. Remember, these are the trophy leagues from Magic Online. So the most trophy deck is Glee Combo at 19.9%. And I did note that there was 21 black green and 12 Jund. So basically 2/3 black green. It's been generally the better version of it, and it's just more hyper all in on the combo. And then we have Affinity coming in second place as the macro archetype at 14%, Mono Red at 11.3%, and then Mono Blue Terra at 10.6%. We also have Gruul No Ponza and Gruul Ponza, which when you put them together are a little over 6-7% of the metagame. But I think that these decks are a little bit different. Like Gruul No Ponza is just a aggro slam stompy deck, and Gruul Ponza is more of a tempo stompy deck or tempo into big stuff, and now you can't do anything. I think that the difference is big enough for it to matter. But I think it's also important to combine the Glee archetypes to really see that this is a huge part of the metagame, because that combo is broken. We'll just see how everybody can adapt to it and everything. So no big deal. All right, let's go ahead and check out the day by day. Okay, there we go. So first day, we had 4 trophies from Glee, Glee being the top archetype, 3 trophies from Affinity, 1 from a bunch of different decks, 2 from Gruul No Ponza, and then 1 of for Terror, Gardens, Colgates, Dredge, Elves, White Weenie, Dimir Control, Dimir Terror, Tireless Tribe, Gian Lupo doing some more Tribe combo, and a Mardu Synth. So I also noted the Gardens list. There's 3 black green and 4 Jund, so it seems like the Gardens players are looking to be Jund more than just regular stock black green. You can check out a bunch of different lists. I'm going to try to go over the archetypes and what's kind of happening as we go through the week. So our first Brood Scale combo deck, this is pretty much similar to the stock list with 4 Brood Scale, 4 Glee, and then 3 of your win condition. They're choosing to play Nightblade with 8 protection spells with Duress and Tamiyo's Safekeeping here. Interesting to note is Tamiyo's Safekeeping gives your permanent hexproof and indestructible, so you can use this in response to a Krark-Clan Shaman activation to make sure that your creature does not die to the Krark-Clan Shaman. Something I was telling people about earlier. We have a Jund Dredge from Klamego. They're choosing to put Crusher in their deck so they can try to get it out with Exhume or Dread Return early, and then have a giant beater that maybe a lot of decks can't deal with. This is a Dimir Terror deck from Ezekrado, which is playing just the 4 Terror, 4 Snackers, no Anglers here, and playing 2 Unexpected Fangs in the main deck. The rest of the deck, they're also playing 4 Modern Age as opposed to the Careful Study that I was playing in my other video that you can check out on my channel. Here's the Tireless Tribe from Gian Lupo. They're playing Standard Bearer. This is a good way to deal with Glee potentially. They've got Blessed Hippogriff as a way to give their creature indestructible. And it also, Standard Bearer can stop their creature from getting hit. They have Blacksmith Skill to give their creature indestructible. It plays very similarly to the black-green Glee deck, but it is, a little bit slower, although it can potentially just go plains, island, inside out, kill you. They're playing 2 whiteouts, which is a cool card that you can sacrifice a snow-covered land, or turn it to your hand, which means this allows them to sacrifice their lands to give extra discard fodder, being able to hit you for more than 20. Here's a Brood Scale combo by Lele, and this one is playing a bunch of these like sacrifice effects and creatures that are value. So you got a Greedy Freebooter and Shambling Ghast, 8 of those for treasures, Carrion Feeder to sacrifice them. Wirewood Herald can search up your Evolution Witness or Nadir's Nightblade, and they're actually playing 2 Heliod's Pilgrim to be able to get the sadistically easier, which is pretty interesting. They're also, so this is like a list that I think I saw Hamuda play a long time ago. Here's a Mardu Synthesizer from Lost on Kato, which is taking the new card Carrot Cake. When it enters or leaves the battlefield, or when it enters or if you sacrifice it, you create a 1/1 rabbit creature token and scry 1. Then you can sacrifice it to gain some life. So they've got 8 foods in the deck. No Cauldron Familiar, but they're playing Refurbished Familiar instead, which they can put down and pick up the Refurbished Familiar with all their Hawks and Skyfishers. They've got 8 burn spells and choosing not to play Tithing Blade. I think this deck is pretty sweet. And they also have the Krark-Clan Shaman Toxin Analysis in the sideboard, which is pretty cool, and Tithing Blade in the sideboard and Dust to Dust. So they're very prepared. Lost on Kato is out of Italy, I believe. Here's a stock Gruul Ramp, and we're probably going to not go into these very much more, but it's just put big creatures on the table as fast as you can and get in. Writhing Chrysalis really made this viable as opposed to playing the land destruction strategy. And they've got 4 Malevolent Rumble and 2 Meet in a Tavern to try to draw into more threats, basically. So let's check out this Mono Blue Delver. This is from Nahuil's, I don't know. 4 Delver, 4 Cryptic Serpent, 4 Tolarian Terror. They're not even playing Murmuring Mystic in the sideboard, and this player is playing Demon Inferior as opposed to Boomerang. Demon Inferior, if you draw 3 cards in a turn, it costs just blue. And then it says the owner of target non-land permanent puts it into their library, second from the top or on the bottom. That's a pretty decent way to get rid of a Brood Scale or other stuff like that. But you can't bounce lands, so there's the 2 options there. The other option people have been playing is Boomerang. There's a kalikaiz from Selkas, who is one of the best kalikaiz players in Magic Online. They're on 4 Sacred Cat, 4 Outlaw Medic, 4 Squadron Hawk as their creatures, plus some Modern Ages, and then they've got experimenting with Thraben Charms in the main deck. Personally, I feel like this deck could play 4 Thraben Charms. Like Journey to Nowhere doesn't necessarily need to be there. You have a lot of creatures that can enter the battlefield. And then they've got like Standard Bearer in the sideboard for the Glee decks. Makes sense. Also works in the mirror. Let's go to the next day. So the next day we had 3 from Affinity, 2 trophies from Glee Combo, Mono Red, Terror, and Gardens. 2 trophies from Goblin Combo from Besu. And then we have 1-ofs from Colgate, Dredge, Bogles, Dimir Terror, Madness Burn, a Familiars Pilot, Jeskai Ephemerate, and a Red-Green Storm deck, which was pretty sick, if I do say so myself. So let's get into the list. Let's see the spice here. So here I have the Golgari Gardens, but really this is the Jund Gardens list, looking to play 4 Writhing Chrysalis as additional threats. And they're also playing Breath Weapon in the main deck. So I think this helps them to play against the Big Beaters deck from the Ponza or no Ponza versions. This is a Goblins from Besu de Gaia, and they actually trophied twice with the same list. Must have been like a 10-0. It's very similar to the Black-Green Goblins, Black-Green Glee deck, but it's got a lot more resiliency, or redundancy, not necessarily resiliency, because Goblin Matron can search up a bunch of your pieces. The only one that you actually have to just draw into is usually the first day of class. This Familiars deck by Borbs is playing the Meaning of the Minds package with Murmuring Mystic, which is cool to see. Only 3 Seagate Oracle, 3 Muldrifter, and a bunch of counterspells, 1 Thraben Charm, 20 lands, which makes sense. And they're also sideboarding an Obsidian Acolyte to try to make sure that your Brood Scale gets protection from black and cannot be enchanted. It's a neat tech. This is a Bogles, and If you haven't seen it before, Bogles is now playing Malevolent Rumble as additional ways to find both their creatures and their payoffs, and giving them a creature on the battlefield to be able to suit up, which is pretty sweet. The Jeskai Ephemerate energy version from Forest Turf. They've got Galvanic Discharge, Jolted Awake, and 1 Tune the Narrative, so 6 energy cards. But Galvanic Discharge can kill most things early and late, and then you can Jolted Awake a creature for just 1 mana later on, which is really awesome. Only 3 Mulldrifters is interesting. We've got another Dredge. This I thought was cool because it's just so clean. 14 lands, 32 creatures, they're all 4-ofs. And then your spells, you got 4 Zoom, 4 Dread Return, 4 Malevolent Rumble, and 2 Acorn Harvest. Malevolent Rumble is something that's new to the deck, I think. And that's awesome to see that they've got that going on as well. 4 Snuff Outs for the Glee combo deck. And they have all of their Knot of the Bones in the sideboard. I guess they're not thinking that they're going to face Burn in the main. Burn in a lot, I guess. Here we have another Mardu Synthesizer. They're playing 4 Refurbished Familiar, 8 of the Hawk Skyfishers, Karkland Shaman, and Toxin Analysis in the main deck. This is a combo that gives your Karkland Shaman Death Touch, and then whatever damage it deals, it actually has lifelink. And what's cool is the Toxin Analysis actually creates a token, and that allows your Karkland Shaman to sacrifice the token and go off. They are playing the Tithing Blades and Wellsprings in the main deck. It's more of a synthesizer-based deck. Here's another version of Dimir Terror. So this is the Careful Study version, not the Modern Age, playing 4 Terror, 2 Angler, and 4 Snacker. This pilot said that they think this is probably one of the best versions of Dimir Terror that they've ever played, and they've been really hyped on it. Here's a Jund version of Brood-Scale. So we're seeing the Brood-Scale decks, the Jund versions, were not originally playing protection spells, but this person has decided to play 2 Samia's Safekeeping. And this version plays much more mid-range with the Writhing Chrysalis and Karkland Shaman to clear the board. That way you're not like as all in and trying to find your combo. Okay, getting into the Storm deck. So this deck works by having a Narcomancer or Thornscape Familiar in play. You can see this all over my channel. It cost reduces your red spells, making Burning Prophet cost 1, and all of your draw spells like Reckless Impulse, Ren's Resolve cost 1. With 2 in play, Glimpse of the Impossible costs 1, and then you just draw through your deck, scrying away lands with Burning Prophet until you one-shot TKO them with Crash Through and Bitter Reunion for haste, or you just ping them out with Gutter Snipe. I love this deck, it's so awesome. It does have some problems versus the blue-based control decks, just because if everything in your deck is red and you need it to survive, Hydroblast really stuffs you badly. So here we have a Brood-Scale combo, Black-Green by Season of Mist, and Season of Mist has been the trophy leader for a while, and they are, I guess, setting the trend as far as how Brood-Scale decks are created. So if you're interested in finding like, okay, I want to play the stock version, definitely check out their list specifically. And then Selkas over here playing Affinity with the 2 Toxin Analysis, 3 Karkland Shaman in the main deck. They really want to wipe the board, and they've been having a lot of success with this specific list, with an additional Toxin Analysis in the sideboard. Looks like they just double trophied there. Pretty nice. And here's a version of Mono Blue Delver, Mono Blue Terror. They're playing 1 Murmuring Mystic in the main deck, and then 4 Boomerangs. Sleep of the Dead is a way to tap down a creature and has Escape. So you can continuously use this because you're just putting all your stuff in the graveyard. Kind of neat, clearing blockers. Okay, it's going to get faster as we go through the week because there's, more repeat decks and not as much to review. Here we have 7 on day 3, 7 Glee combo, 6 mono red, 3 mono blue terror, 2 Gruul Ponza, and then 1 ofs for Affinity, Elves, Gruul Ramp, Dimir Control, and Orzhov Blade. Let's hop into the lists. So here is a Brood-Scale combo. This is a black-green one, but I thought that the interesting thing to note here was they're playing 8 protection spells in the main deck with 2 Mezfiend, 4 Duress, and 4 Tamiyo's Safekeeping. And then they're not playing Eviscerator's Insight, and rather they're going for Fanatical Offering. So no Energy Refractor, just lots of Disruption, and they're playing a Golgari Rot Farm to get extra land drops, which is pretty interesting. Okay, we have another brood scale. So this is a Jund version. You can see that they've cut some number of writhing chrysalis for additional molten gatekeepers. So I think that gives them an additional out for a sort of mid-rangey version of the deck where they're just kind of like, put this on the table, ping you slowly, and then you're gonna die. Only 3 wildfires, but they're playing 3 galvanic blasts in the main deck, and having a removal is probably pretty good in the mirror. Plus Deadly Dispute, Fanatical Offering. Interesting list for sure. Now we have a Dimir Control by Full Metal Z. This is a Sneaky Snacker based version of just Dimir Control. Interesting. Then here is a mono green elves essentially. They're playing 4 Winding Way, 1 Lead the Stampede, and 4 Vines of Vastwood. This is popularized more by Benoru or Raketa, and Nubarola is a grinder trying out all sorts of different things. But one of the cool things about this list is they're playing 4 Nyxborn Hydra. It is a bestow creature, so it's a X green for a 0/1 that gets X +1/+1 counters on it, or you can X green to bestow it as an enchantment, and then it gives the creature it's enchanted on +1/+1 for each counter, and reach and trample. So you can just dump a ton of mana with Priest of Titanias into any creature and then just slam in. Plus they're very prepared for burn with Well-Wisher, Elvish Mystic. Essence Warden. An Essence Warden is a way to make your opponent's life miserable if they're playing the Glee combo deck, because they're going to gain a lot of life. Mono green, but elves can splash a ton, so they're playing Gorilla Shaman, Hollow, Negate, Prohibit. All these things are splashed mostly off of your Birchlore Rangers, but you can also get colored sources off Jaspera Sentinel. Here's a Brood Scale combo. This is more of the stock Jund version, but they're only playing 1 Shaman and choosing to play 4 protection spells with Tamiyo's Safekeeping and Vines of Vastwood. Vines of Vastwood can also actually give your opponent's creature protection from spells they control, and that gives basically negates their statistically at the time. Lightning Spear is an interesting equipment here. +1/+0 and trample, and then you can sacrifice to deal 3 damage to any target. So I guess they could give their Giant Chrysalis or their Brood Scale trample with this, as well as use it as a way to clear another Brood Scale. So this Glint Blade, or Orzhov Blade, is just really, really high on discard effects. They've got 4 Refurbished Familiars and 2 Okibigangs. Then they've got Ephemerate to keep ephemerating the Refurbished Familiars. It's definitely super brutal. If you start out slow or you stumble, they're just going to be like really ruining your day. Plus they've got Tithing Blade to make sure that the board stays clear, and 3 Duress in the sideboard. They're playing Trespasser's Curse to try to deal with Glee. May or may not be useful. Let's move on to the day 4. So this is the 7th. Over here, we've got 5 Mono Blue Terrors, and then 3 of Glee and Affinity. 1 ofs for Gardens, Ponza, White Weenie, Is It Terror, Boros Bully, and Madness Burn. And some of these versions are pretty cool. There we go. So Adepto Terra playing Mono Blue Terror plus Sneaky Snacker. So they've got 8 Terror creatures, 4 Sneaky Snackers, and they decided not to play any boomerangs, any bounce effects. Instead, they're playing 3 foil, which allows them to discard the Sneaky Snacker, so they don't ever have to cast it. You can also brainstorm and mental note away your Sneaky Snacker, or Thought Scour it if you see it in the deck. And I saw that they were going to stream this deck, and they thought they were just going to 0-5, but they ended up 5-0ing. I guess it was super powerful. Here's a mono White Weenie, but one of the things that White Weenie has re-added, which was a staple during the Chatterstorm era, is Suture Priest. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can gain a life. And if another creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you can have them lose a life. So this is very similar to the Trespasser's Curse, and you can just main deck it in White Weenie. So I definitely have had problems playing through that, especially in the main deck. We might see, if this gets big, we might see more versions of Brood Scale that are playing removal in their main deck as well. So I don't like to highlight Ponza, but here's a Ponza deck from Giorgio Combo. And he and Walker 735 have been working together. They found this card Nyxborn Hydra after getting faced against the Elves decks. And this is a really great way to take your excess mana from your land destruction or ramp deck and just slam it on a huge Chrysalis, a huge boarding party. Anything that doesn't already have trample is going to become a massive threat. And then we have a Brood Scale combo from yours truly, trying out a more of like a mono black. And this is using the 8 treasure creatures, 4 Mesmeric Fiend, and then Evolution Witness and Nightblade, with Village Rites and Corrupted Conviction to be a 0 mana essentially draw to when you sacrifice one of your 8 creatures. So the idea was to draw as fast as possible and do things quickly, making my Weather the Storms better and try to combo faster. This 4-color aggro is actually Boros Bully, but they are playing 4 Sneaky Snackers in the main deck, which definitely works in the Boros Bully deck. And they're playing the Gates Shell. That will allow them to slam in with their Sacred Cats eventually, or make anything in their deck a threat. So day 5, on the 8th, we have 4 Glee, 3 Mono Red, 3 Terror, 3 Cawgates, 2 Affinity, and then 1 ofs for Ponza, Dredge, Elves, Rule Ramp, White Weenie, Bogles, Familiars, and an Altertron. All right, let's go to the top. So this Bogles deck I wanted to highlight because they are playing Heliod's Pilgrim over the last Ledgewalker that allows them to search up their Ancestral Mask or Ethereal Armor, allowing them to go to just 3 Ancestral Mask. And they've decided to play 1 Ram Through in the main deck as removal / reach. So if you can get in and you have a Trampler, you can just deal the extra damage to win the game. This Brood Scale combo looks pretty normal from a Jund version, but they're choosing to play Duress in the main deck, so they're having some disruption that way. This Familiars deck by Gartiuz, they're playing what I thought was interesting. They're playing 3 Thraben Charms and 3 Murmuring Mystics, only 2 Muldrifters. They have 2 Deep Analysis and 2 Meeting the Minds, 3 Lorien Revealed. So their plan is to just spam stuff onto the board and then just like kill everything. They're not playing any Preordain, it looks like, with just 2 Brainstorm, 4 counters. Pretty cool deck. I was definitely under the impression that Murmuring Mystic is very strong. I know I talk about like I like to play the Modern Age version, but Murmuring Mystic clearly makes your Thraben Charm super good, and Meeting of the Minds really, really good as well. Another Thraben Charm in the sideboard, and Stonehorn Dignitary. So Stonehorn Dignitary, I think, is really good for Familiars because the red-green ramp deck is not really playing removal, and they cannot deal with the Foglock. Here's a Cawgates. I just wanted to point out that Makasiok, I don't know how to pronounce that, so someone will tell me. They're playing Flagbearer in the main deck, trying to manage the Glee deck as well. 3 Thraben Charms here, 4 Counterspell, and 1 Essence Scatter. Interesting choices. We have a really cool Jund version again of Brood Scale. And now that I look at this, this is actually my Affinity deck with the Brood Scale combo in it, which I love. This is 4 Mere Enforcer, 4 Refurbished Familiar, and then 4 Basking Brood Scale, 4 Sadistically. They're playing Blood Fountain, 4 Dispute, 4 Bargain, 4 Galvanic. It's just so good into the opposing Glee decks. And it's really sick to see that they actually got a trophy here. I was excited to see that for sure. This is a Altertron version I tried with 4 Wizards Rockets, 4 Chromatic Star to try to be a little bit faster against the Glee decks, 3 Altar and 3 Foundry also to be faster, and the Molten Gatekeeper to close the game quicker on Magic Online. As well as playing 4 Seal of Doom, trying to just murder all Brood Scales. It was pretty fun. I had another one this week of Altertron. So let's go to the next day. We have 6 Affinity, 4 Glee combo, 2 Dredge, and then 1 ofs down the line of Mono Red, Mono Blue Terror, Gardens, Cawgate, Ponza, Elves, Dimir Control, and an Orzhov Blade. So this Orzhov Blade by Baladin is not quite as aggressively trying to discard your opponent, but they are playing 4 Refurbished Familiar, 1 Okiba Gang, 8 Novice Inspector, Thraben Inspector effects, which I love that. That's awesome. You got to go hard on the Inspectors. 8 is definitely the correct amount. Got 4 Cast Down, So essentially 7 2-mana Doom Blades and then 4 Tithing Blades. I definitely can get behind this. They have Blood Fountain and Omen of the Dead. So if they want, they can like Omen of the Dead, of course, Skyfisher and pick up the Blood Fountain. I don't know. Pretty sweet. So now I was looking through the list and we see a Brood Scale by Ezacrado playing also the Freebooter Shambling Gas Village Rites version, which was really sick, and they managed a trophy as well. It looks to be very similar to my list, so we'll see if that continues. Then we see Hype 12232 playing their Snarling Gorehound version of Brood Scale, which is whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you can surveil 1. They have Feral Prowler. When it dies, draw a card. They're also on like this Village Rites version, and they're playing 4 Bequeathal, so they put it on their creature, then sacrifice it, draw even more cards. And their win condition here is Gravitic Punch, which has Jumpstart. So you make a giant creature, you make your Brood Scale huge, you scry away your deck, and then you use the Jack-o'-lantern from the graveyard to make a red mana, and you punch your opponent with a huge lizard, which is awesome. I think I just covered this before, but one thing I wanted to note was that before I thought that this was going to lose to Strands, but it doesn't, because this is the creature dealing the damage and the Brood Scale is devoid. Here we have a Dimir Control from Irenicus, and they're playing 4 Dark Ritual, allowing you to ritual out a Murmuring Mystic or a Thorn or an Azure Fleet Admiral all on turn 2, and then just try to ride that emblem or the Mystic tokens to victory. Campfire in the main deck is kind of sweet, trying to knock the deck out. And I wanted to point out this Ponza list trying to play some Glimpse the Impossible. I don't know if that's good or not, but it is pretty sweet. So they can use Glimpse the Impossible as a draw 3 sometimes, or just a put 3 spawns onto the table, and those spawns can make the Chrysalis bigger. We have another version of the black-green Gardens deck here. I think we covered that already. Okay, last day. Thanks for sticking around if you're still here. We have 4 Glee combo, 4 mono red, 2 Affinity, 2 Gardens, 1 Ponza, a Dredge, a Terror, a Boros Bully again, a Walls, and a Mardu Ephemerate. So Walls combo by Apis72, the Walls Master. A little bit of an experimental list they were saying. They've got the Utopia Sprawl version with Arbor Elf, so they can actually go off super fast, I think. So this could allow you to win turn 2, I think, right? So you go land, Arbor Elf, land, Sprawl, tap, untap, Freed, untap the Arbor Elf, make infinite blue and green, or infinite green only, and then you somehow win from there. So now we have another Brood Scale combo by Barf, and they're playing very similar to my list as well. I was really excited to see that. But they are playing 4 Colony Garden, which is another thing that you can use the Village Rites Corrupted Conviction on, which I think does make sense. 1 Forest, 3 Vault of Whispers. Barf is a prolific Pauper player as well, so good to see. And then we have Ezacrado doing it again with the same list. So 4 trophies with this idea, as well as the hype version. So maybe this is the way to go. I don't know. Pretty cool. And then we have a Skred by Forest Turf. So they're playing the 4 Bolt, 4 Skred version. This was popularized by Spock Vita Loca. 1 Grixis Affinity here by Lost on Kato. This is notable because they're going a little bit more aggro. 4 Frogmite, 4 Enforcer, 4 Refurbished Familiar, all very, very cheap creatures. And then they have 4 Gear Seeker Serpent as a ginormous creature that's also quite cheap. 4 Galvanic Blast, and just go aggro on your opponent. 4 Blood Fountain, trying to get all their creatures into play ASAP. It makes a lot of sense. There's a Mardu Ephemerate here from Marsh Flats, and this is something that was popularized by Snap Bolt, but it's essentially playing Ephemerate and Goliath Paladin, Refurbished Familiar, all these good stuff to just go over the top of your opponent with value. Brood Scale, another Jund Brood Scale, playing some Duress for their version of Disruption. And I thought this was also cool because they went for a mana base of artifact lands to play Refurbished Familiar. So that's pretty sweet. Then we see a standard, like kind of looking to be a standard mono red, but they're playing this card Solemn Simulacrum. It is a 1 mana 1/1 artifact with haste. That artifact can turn on your Tomb Raider. You can sacrifice it later to turn on your Bushwhacker, and you can also throw it with a Goblin Grenade, I think. Let's see. Yeah, it's Goblin. You can throw it with your Goblin Grenade. All that together, lots of good synergy there. And then another player playing the Dredge deck, playing Olmog's Crusher and Dragon Breath to give the Crusher haste. One more Gardens. So that pretty much covers the leagues. If you want more detailed information on the challenges, we're going to go ahead and get into that, but make sure you check out Card Casting Commons, who goes and they go over the challenges in great detail. But here we have some high level stuff from Kerblinksy on Twitter. So the Friday challenge, we've got Brood Scale at 16%, then Grixis Affinity, Mono Blue Terra, and Golgari Gardens. Brood Scale doing the best of those. The next day, Saturday, we have Terror on top. Is it Terror? Grixis Affinity, Mono Blue Terror, and then Brood Scale. Brood Scale just crushing on this day, but they only had 4 pilots, and I think some of them made the finals, so very, very good win rate from them. Grixis Affinity with a huge, very, very good win rate as well. Is it Control not doing amazing, but I think on the whole, this deck is doing well for a couple of pilots, so it seems to be somewhat skill intensive. On Sunday, we have Stompy, Gruul Stompy essentially at the highest played deck, 17.9%, then Grixis Affinity, then Is It Control, then Brood Scale, then Mono Blue Terror. Brood Scale once again posting over 60% win rate with 64% non-mirror. That's amazing. Holy moly. This deck is, like I said, 2-card combo. And then Kerblinksy did a really, really nice wrap up, which I really appreciate. So this is covering the entirety of the weekend for all of the decks that have been played and what their win rates were. So it's kind of weird to combine the win rates, but I think it's good to see. So your most played deck overall was Grixis Affinity, then the Gruul Eldrazi, Golgari Brood Scale, Mono Blue Terror, and then Is It Control. So the only one actually doing super good here was the Brood Scale. 10% of the metagame, 57.73% win rate over the weekend in challenges. Okay, I see that. It's pretty sick. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know. If there's any need for like a recap or comments, leave me information in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.